It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woo-hooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey gang, there is more to history than we've been told, more to faith than we've been taught, and more to this world than meets the eye, right? So welcome to Pilgrim's Great Chronicles, a journey into the hidden, the forgotten, and the questions that most are too afraid to ask or won't ask. And this isn't about wild speculation or chasing shadows, it's about pulling back the curtain on history, scripture, and strange patterns shaping our world today. Now, we explore the stories buried beneath time, the ancient accounts of fallen empires, strange beings, and lost knowledge that still ripple through our world. And from the mysteries of scripture to the forces at work behind global events, we're here to ask, what is really going on and why does it matter? And whether you're here out of curiosity, or because you already see the cracks in the narrative, then you're in the right place. Truth withstands questioning, and those who seek find out. So, as pilgrims, let's walk together into the skies, challenge the official story, and search for what's been lost. So, with that in mind, let's stand firm, stay vigilant, and keep seeking, and start this particular episode of the Pilgrim's Great Chronicles. Don't forget to subscribe, to engage and awaken others by sharing the podcast, folks. That is such a big help for us. Today and every Monday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, we release a new long-form episode. Today we are going to be going over the Book of Enoch and Jesus and how all of those things are related. And other things also related to the Book of Enoch. And we'll be going over about, not even about, we're going to be going over 7 different areas of interest in regards to all this information. And it's going to be kind of a long one, so you're going to want to try to keep up a lot of information on this one. And again, you might want to take notes because we like to include a lot of information so that you have a lot of data that you can refer to when sharing these kind of things with others. Because like I've said before, we all have information that we take in. We all have things that we learn about this world. We know how strange it is, and it gets stranger all the time. But if you want to be able to do something about it instead of just taking in that information and learning about such things and then wondering, well, what in the world can I even do about it? What am I supposed to do? Well, one of the things you can do is, nobody expects you to go out and start a podcast, but when you're getting information like what I'm presenting to you or what others present to you, support those podcasts, support people who are sharing the truth with you, who do the research. You can support by liking, subscribing, sharing, being a regular listener, commenting, really all of those things. Every little thing you do that you don't think is that big of a deal is a big deal, because every time you like this program or somebody that you've shared it with likes the program, it broadens the reach, because YouTube goes, oh, people like this. Oh, people are commenting on this, or whatever streaming service or wherever you listen. Every time you engage, it makes them want to present it to other people, because they keep you on their particular platform. And if they know you're engaged, then the outreach becomes greater. So you wind up being, in your own small way, by just liking and sharing and subscribing, in your own small way, you've made a big difference, because you've caused this particular episode or this particular program to be spread even further through your engagement. And of course, if you feel led to, you can also find ways you can support us in other means, like you can use the help or the thank you feature in YouTube to, do the equivalent of buying me a cup of coffee. You can go visit our band's webpage, because we also write music on these topics, and support us through merchandise or listening to the album on Spotify or your favorite streaming service. Those kind of things. So without further ado, because this is a long one, we're going to jump right in with section 1, Jesus' most used title.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The Son of Man. And why did Jesus use the title Son of Man? So, out of all the titles Jesus could have chosen, Messiah, Son of God, King of Israel, he most frequently referred to himself as the Son of Man. In fact, over 80 times in the Gospels. So this raises an important question. Why this particular title? And many assume it simply means human, because it does appear in the Old Testament. Ezekiel is referred to as a son of man by the angel that is taking him around and showing him things. However, Jesus uses this title in a way that goes far beyond this. The key to understanding it lies in a couple of ancient texts. Number one, Daniel 7, verses 13 through 14, where the Son of Man is a divine figure receiving an everlasting kingdom. And 2, the Book of Enoch, where the Son of Man is a heavenly being, pre-existent and coming to judge the world. Jesus wasn't just calling himself human. He was making a direct claim to be the prophesied divine figure from both Daniel and Enoch. To his audience, this was a bold messianic declaration. And his audience was primarily the Jewish people initially. And they would have been familiar with both of these sources of information. Now, there is a difference between the two that I'm going to get into later. That is a very important distinction, and why I think the Book of Enoch is the source that Jesus was really referencing. So the Son of Man in Ezekiel, it's more of a descriptive non-messianic term. Really, in the book of Ezekiel, Son of Man is used over 90 times, but it is never a divine or messianic title. Instead, it's simply a descriptor for Ezekiel himself being, a human rather than an angel, like the being that is speaking to him. So For example, in Ezekiel 2:1, it says, "And he said to me, Son of man, stand on your feet, and I will speak with you." And Ezekiel 3:17, "Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel." In both these cases, God is calling Ezekiel a mere mortal or human being. The phrase is used as a title of humility, or simply a description of a human, not divinity. So if Jesus was simply using Son of Man in the Ezekiel sense, then it would mean he was emphasizing his humanity and prophetic role, but nothing more. However, we know from his trial before the Sanhedrin in Matthew 26, 64 and 65, that Jesus used this. His use of the Son of Man was seen as blasphemous. So it was something far more than just a human prophet. So it's pretty clear Jesus was not borrowing from Ezekiel's use of the term and how it was used in the book of Ezekiel. Now, we also have the Son of Man in Daniel 7, a visionary yet still limited reference, right? In Daniel 7, 13 and 14, we see the only instance in the Old Testament where the Son of Man is used in a way that could imply more than just a human. So let's see what it says. It says, "I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man. And he came to the Ancient of Days, and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion." So in that passage, it's unique compared to Ezekiel, because first the Son of Man is coming with the clouds of heaven, which is a divine act. Then we have, where he receives dominion, glory, and kingdom forever from the Ancient of Days. And then he is served by all nations. So while this passage is far more messianic than Ezekiel's, it still does not go as far as Enoch does in defining the nature and pre-existence of the Son of Man. Plus, Daniel presents the Son of Man as a coming figure, but does not explain his origin. He's also not explicitly called pre-existent, divine, or the final judge of the wicked, unlike he is in Enoch. So if Jesus' use of the Son of Man came solely from Daniel, then his audience might have assumed he was just claiming maybe messianic kingship, but not necessarily divinity. And the Jewish leaders' reaction to Jesus calling himself Son of Man makes it very clear that he was saying something far more than just, I'm the Messiah, And the other thing, when you listen carefully to that, even though the description afterwards describes something more than human, the expression here in this case is that Daniel is seeing a being coming from heaven that looks like a human. It's not a title. It is simply him saying he sees with the clouds of heaven one coming like a son of man, or just like in Ezekiel, it was descriptive, one that a being that is coming out of the heavens that looks like a human, right? So let's see what Enoch's got to say about Son of Man, a far more fully divine figure and a title, not just, hey, this person looks like a human, okay? So in the Book of Enoch, first Enoch, it provides a detailed vision of the Son of Man as a pre-existent divine judge who will execute God's final judgment at the end of this current earth. In 1 Enoch 46, verses 1 and 2, the Son of Man has a radiant face and sits beside the head of days. In 1 Enoch 48, 2 through 6, he existed before the stars and was revealed to the righteous. In 1 Enoch 62, 5 through 7, the Son of Man will judge the wicked and reward the faithful. In 1 Enoch 69, verse 27, the Son of Man is given power over all of creation. So these passages are strikingly similar to how Jesus describes himself in the Gospels and Revelation. So why is Jesus' use of the Son of Man Enochian and not just Danielic? Well, since Jesus was accused of blasphemy for calling himself the Son of Man, it proves that his listeners understood his claim in an Enochian sense as a direct assertion of divinity, pre-existence, and cosmic authority. See, the term in Enoch and the way it's used isn't just, oh, this is a human being. It's the Son of Man in the Book of Enoch is more of a title of a being that is eternal, that judges all of humanity righteously. If Jesus had meant it in the Danielic sense, he would have just been claiming, possible messiahship. But the Pharisees would not have immediately necessarily accused him of blasphemy. However, in his trial in Matthew 26, 64, and 65, it shows they understood his reference as a divine claim, leading them to call for his execution. Because by saying it, Jesus was saying and claiming the title from the Book of Enoch, that he was this divine title, the Son of Man, the pre-existent being that would come at the end and judge all the nations. So, if you remember the crucial Sanhedrin moment where Jesus quotes both Daniel and Enoch during his trial before the Sanhedrin that we mentioned before, in Matthew chapter 26, 63 through 65, the high priest directly challenges him. And he says, "Tell us, if you're the Christ, the Son of God." And Jesus responds with a statement that merges both Daniel and Enoch. And he says, "You will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Now here you've got Jesus combining Daniel 7, 13 through 14, coming on the clouds of heaven, and really Psalm 110, verse 1, seated at the right hand of power, and 1 Enoch 62, 5 through 7, where he is seated on a throne of glory as the judge of all. And so what happens next? There weren't any more questions. They knew exactly what he had just claimed, and so the high priest tears his robes and declares blasphemy. So, by choosing Son of Man as his primary title, not description, as a human, Jesus was subtly but deliberately identifying himself as the messianic figure from Enoch's vision, which would have been unmistakable to his audience. So it sets the foundation for the rest of the video. Our podcast. So we're going to see that Jesus and his disciples frequently referenced ideas from Enoch in ways that confirm its influence. And that's important because, again, one of the things I want to emphasize before we move on to section 2 is that what we just presented here is the idea that Son of Man is a title. The Old Testament writings, the canonical writings found in Ezekiel and Daniel they're just descriptive. They're not prescriptive of a title. They are just basically using the term to describe someone who is like a son of Adam or a son of man or a human being. Enoch's reference is to a divine pre-existent being as a title, not son of man as in the idea of describing somebody who looks human. Do you see the difference? Because that's important. So, in section 2, how the Book of Enoch influenced New Testament theology. Well, first we have Jude's direct quotation of Enoch, right? In Jude, and maybe you don't know this, but in Jude 14 through 15, he directly quotes from 1 Enoch 1:9, stating, "Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment on all, and to convict all the ungodly of all their deeds of ungodliness that they have committed in such an ungodly way." This is significant because no Old Testament book contains this exact phrase. Now, What difference does that make? Well, it confirms that Jude was directly referencing Enoch. Early church fathers like Tertullian, one who lived around 160 to 225 AD, he explicitly defended the authenticity of Enoch's prophecy, stating that in his work on the apparel of women, book 1, chapter 3, that Enoch was rejected by the Jews because it was too clearly pointing to Christ. And Peter's reference to the Watchers.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
So in 2 Peter, if you didn't know this, chapter 2, verse 4, Peter states that, "For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment." The Greek word used here, Tartarus, translated as hell in verse 4, chapter 2, in 2 Peter, is a term not commonly used in Jewish literature, but it is explicitly used in 1 Enoch 21 to describe where the rebellious angels were bound. In 1 Enoch, chapter 10, verses 12 through 14, it describes how God commanded the angel Raphael to bind Azazel, a leading fallen angel or watcher, in darkness until the day of judgment, aligning with Peter's description. Tertullian, Irenaeus, and Origen referenced the Watchers from Enoch when discussing the origin of demons and their imprisonment. Tertullian, in his Apology, chapter 22, explicitly states that demons are the offspring of fallen angels and human women. That is an idea found in 1 Enoch 6, chapter 6 through 7. And Irenaeus, in Against Heresies, book 4, chapter 36, he affirms that the angels, the fallen angels, taught mankind forbidden knowledge, aligning with 1 Enoch, chapter 8, verses 1 through 3. And Origen, in his work, De Principis, book 1, chapter 5, he discusses angels who fell and were bound in darkness, which reflects the ideas mentioned in 1 Enoch chapter 10, verses 4 through 6. And then we have Enoch's influence on apocalyptic language. For instance, in Revelation chapter 20, verses 1 through 3, it describes Satan being bound in the abyss, much like the fate of the rebellious angels mentioned in 1 Enoch chapter 10, 4 through 6, where Shemaiah and his fellow watchers are imprisoned. 1 Enoch 108 describes a new heaven and new earth similar to what you see described in Revelation 21:1, where John sees the New Jerusalem descending. Revelation 14:14 states that, "Then I looked, and behold a white cloud, and seated on the cloud one like a son of man, with a golden crown on his head, and a sharp sickle in his hand." Now, that mirrors 1 Enoch 46, 1 through 2, where the Son of Man is described as sitting on a throne of glory and bringing judgment upon the wicked. So, in addition to that, we have the early church fathers in Enoch, where we have Tertullian, again on the Apparel of Women, book 1, chapter 3, arguing that the Book of Enoch was rejected by Jewish authorities because of its messianic implications, but was accepted by early Christians, especially the Eastern Orthodox churches. Irenaeus referenced 1 Enoch 7 in Against Heresies, book 4, chapter 36, when discussing the fallen angels and their corruption of mankind. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which preserves some of the earliest Christian traditions, still includes Enoch in its biblical canon even today. Never removed it. The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in 1947, contain fragments of First Enoch, proving that the Second Temple Jews considered it valuable and authoritative. If I'm not mistaken, it was also the second most copied scroll that they found. I'll double check that, or you may want to double check that and make sure I'm correct on that, but I'm pretty positive that's the case. And then we have Jesus' teachings and Enochian concepts. For instance, Jesus references to outer darkness and weeping and gnashing of teeth that he mentions in Matthew 8:12 and 22:13 mirror First Enoch's description of the place of punishment for the wicked that he writes about in First Enoch chapter 10, 13 through 14. In Matthew 24:37, it says, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." And that directly relates to First Enoch 6 through 7, which describes the watchers corrupting humanity before the flood, reinforcing that Jesus saw those events as prophetically significant. And in John 5:22 through 27, states, "For the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son, that all may honor the Son, just as they honor the Father. And he has given him authority to execute judgment, because he is the Son of Man." That aligns with 1 Enoch 69:27, which states that the Son of Man was given all power to judge sinners and overthrow kings. So what we can conclude from this is that the Book of Enoch was widely read and highly influential in Second Temple Judaism and early Christianity. And what I mean by Second Temple is the time that Jesus would have been walking around with his disciples and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the Second Temple. New Testament writers such as Jude, Peter, and John reference concepts from Enoch verbatim, or if not verbatim, thematically. So, in Jesus' own words, align with key themes from Enoch, proving that Enoch's influence on the New Testament is undeniable. I mean, some of these expressions and key terms wouldn't exist, it would seem to me, were it not for the existence of the Book of Enoch. And we have early church fathers acknowledging Enoch's authority, with Tertullian, Irenaeus, and Origen defending its significance. And with that in mind, we are going to move to section 3 and discuss biblical concepts that trace back to Enoch. So the Book of Enoch contains several key theological ideas that closely align with the New Testament teachings. We've seen some of them in this previous section, but these include descriptions of hell, the fate of rebellious angels, the final judgment, and the pre-existence of the Messiah. This section, we're going to demonstrate how these concepts in the New Testament are deeply rooted in Enoch's writings. So, descriptions of hell in Enoch versus the New Testament. The concept of hell, judgment, and the afterlife in the New Testament mirrors descriptions found in the Book of Enoch. For example, 1 Enoch 22, 1 through 14 describes Sheol as having 4 compartments, separating the righteous from the wicked. So this is very similar to Luke 16, 19 through 31, where Jesus speaks of Abraham's bosom and the torment of the unrighteous. For example, Luke 16:26, "And beside all this, between us and you, a great chasm has been fixed, in order that those who would pass from here to you may not be able, and none may cross from there to us." So this concept of a divided underworld with no crossing over is identical to Enoch's depiction. In Matthew 25:41, we read descriptions of eternal punishment. For example, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." Now that aligns with 1 Enoch 10 through chapter 10, 13 through 14, which states that the watchers and the wicked will be cast into a fiery abyss for eternal punishment. In Revelation 20, 10 through 15, and 1 Enoch 90, 24 through 27, both describe the final judgment where sinners and fallen beings are thrown into a lake of fire. For example, Revelation 20:15, and if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. 1 Enoch 90:26 says, and they burned those sheep, and that abyss was to the right of that house, and I saw those sheep burning and their bones burning. So the New Testament's depiction of hell, the abyss, and the lake of fire clearly reflects Enoch's earlier descriptions. And those kind of descriptions are not to really be found anywhere in the Old Testament. They would have been drawn from Enoch, not the Old Testament. So then we have the fate of the rebellious angels, the imprisonment of fallen angels. It's another strong connection between Enoch and the New Testament. 2 Peter 2, verse 4 states, for if God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
That again mirrors 1 Enoch chapter 10, verses 4 through 6, which describes Raphael binding Azazel and throwing him into darkness until the final judgment. It's just in Enoch, you get a little bit more specific detail, right? And at certain times, I'm thinking maybe the author of the Old Testament, like, I know many people wonder, well, why doesn't Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4 go into more detail? I don't think they needed to at the time that these accounts or records were being collected and written by the author, which many believe was Moses, of the first 5 books of the Bible. And in Genesis, they already had a record, a very detailed record of the account of the watchers from Enoch and other books that they were familiar with. So there would have been no need to go into the details. All they needed to do was give you the headline news. Oh yeah, the sons of God, they found the daughters of men beautiful. Yeah, we know about that in Enoch. So no need to write 10 more paragraphs or chapters. We can just give the headline news version of it in Genesis, right? So another reference, Jude 6 states that, and the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the day, until the judgment of the great day. And that aligns with 1 Enoch 21, verse 6, which describes fallen angels bound in a prison of desolation, crying out for release. In Revelation 9, verses 1 through 11, it describes the abyss being opened and releasing imprisoned beings led by Abaddon or Apollyon, the destroyer. This concept is very similar to 1 Enoch 88, verses 1 through 3, where imprisoned watchers are released for a time to bring destruction before their final judgment. That is not, so far as I know, anywhere to be found in the Old Testament, but it is found in Enoch. And the punishment of fallen angels and their binding in the abyss is nearly identical between 1 Enoch, 2 Peter, Jude, and Revelation. That strongly suggests that New Testament writers were drawing from Enoch's account. Because again, not found in the Old Testament, but found in a contemporary, the Book of Enoch, First Enoch, the Book of the Watchers. So the concept of final judgment in Enoch very closely matches Jesus' teaching as well in Matthew 24, in chapters 24 and 25. Because Enoch, First Enoch writes in 100, verse 4 states, "In those days, fathers shall be beaten together with their sons in one place, and brothers shall fall together with their friends, till there shall be no more mercy for them." Now, if you read the parallel in Matthew 10:21, Jesus warns that brother will deliver another brother over to death, and the father his child, and children will rise against parents and have them put to death. First Enoch 91, verses 9 and 10 describe the righteous being saved and sinners receiving eternal judgment. And we have this in Matthew 25, 31 through 46, where Jesus speaks of separating the sheep and the goats. Matthew 25, 34. "Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.'" And then another example, Matthew 25, 41. "Then he will say to those on his left, 'Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels.'" This exact same division of judgment is seen in 1 Enoch 91, verse 10, where the righteous inherit the new earth, while sinners are removed or cast out. In Revelation 14, 14 through 20, it describes a future harvest where the Son of Man executes judgments separating the wicked from the righteousness. That is mirrored in 1 Enoch 55, 4, where the Son of Man is depicted separating the just from the unjust in preparation for judgment. So you can see here that the parallels between Jesus' teachings and the Book of Enoch's judgment scene further reinforce that Enoch was a source for New Testament eschatology. All right.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And next we have one of the more striking connections being the pre-existence of the Messiah, who is strongly emphasized in both Enoch and the Gospel of John. So in 1 Enoch 48, which is one of my favorite chapters about the Son of Man, it's very descriptive, and I don't see how it could be referring to anybody but Jesus. It's so obvious. If you don't read anything else out of the Book of Enoch, read chapter 48. 48, 2 through 6 says this. Before the sun and the signs were created, before the stars of heaven were made, his name was named before the Lord of Spirits, which parallels John 1 through 3, which makes the claim that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 8:58 declares, Jesus says, "Before Abraham was, I am." And that aligns with Enoch's claim that the Messiah existed before creation in chapter 48 of Enoch. In Revelation 22:13, it describes Jesus as saying, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." And that corresponds to the eternal Son of Man mentioned in 1 Enoch 62, verses 6 through 7, who is described as having existing eternally with God before the foundation of the world. So here we also see that the New Testament's high Christology aligns exactly with Enoch's portrayal of the pre-existent Messiah, and suggests that early Christians were also very familiar with these Enochian ideas. You know, when Jesus refers to himself as the Son of Man, you don't have anybody asking him about it. And you find that strange? I mean, you've never heard the term before. Suddenly he's calling himself the Son of Man. And when you hear something like that, don't just pass it up as, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Look into it. It's very important. When Dr. Michael Heiser, the author of The Unseen Realm, he's famously quoted as saying, if it's in the Bible and it's weird, it's probably important. And he's right. Don't just overlook it or just say, well, I don't get that, and just move on. Look into it, because it's probably very important. So to conclude section 3, sorry, my voice once again going out, just like our last episode. So I apologize. This probably has to do with this cold weather we're having in Tennessee. It just goes up, it goes down, and if you're anything like me, the dry heat and the combination of pollen when it gets warm, or any of this stuff, just plays havoc with your voice and your throat and the dryness of it. Anyway, in conclusion of that, I would just say that the descriptions of hell, final judgment, the fate of the rebellious angels, and the pre-existence of the Messiah in Enoch are so strikingly similar to New Testament theology that it really couldn't have been gleaned from anywhere else. And Jesus, Peter, Jude, and John all reference concepts found in Enoch, proving it was an essential part of the Second Temple Jewish theology, if nothing else. Again, especially since it was the number one way in which Jesus referred to himself, as a title like the Christ. There's no other place he could have referenced himself as that term, as a title. And we know the Book of Enoch's influence is seen in New Testament eschatology, demonology, and Christology, which just reinforces its importance in early Christian thought. And so with that in mind, let's move on to section 4. And we will see that in the book of Revelation, it presents Jesus as the Son of Man, the divine judge, and the returning king, a role that closely matches descriptions found in the book of Enoch. Anyway, in this section, what we're going to do is we're going to examine how Revelation aligns with Enoch's vision of the end times, reinforcing that the Second Temple Jewish understanding of the Messiah was shaped in part, at least, by Enochian theology. For example, the Son of Man in Revelation 14:14 versus Enoch's description. So the Son of Man in Revelation appears in judgment over the earth, wielding a sickle to harvest the righteous and the wicked. Revelation says that in 14, verses 14 through 16, it says, "Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and seated on the cloud one like a son of man, with a golden crown on his head, and a sharp sickle in his hand. And another angel came out of the temple, calling with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, 'Put in your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap is come, for the harvest of the earth is fully ripe.'" Okay, and we'll compare that to 1 Enoch 46, verses 1 and 2, that says, "And there I saw one who had a head of days, and his head was white like wool, and with him was another being whose countenance had the appearance of a man, and his face was full of grace like one of the holy angels." So both Revelation and Enoch depict this Son of Man appearing in the clouds, crowned with glory and executing judgment. Additionally, Revelation's visions of the final harvest reflects Enoch, 1 Enoch 55:4, where the Son of Man separates the righteous from the wicked before judgment. And then we also have both Enoch and Revelation describing Jesus' returning with a heavenly army to execute justice. 1 Enoch 1:9 says, "Behold, he comes with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all and to destroy all the ungodly." Jude 14 through 15 say, Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his saints to execute judgment on all and to convict all the ungodly of all their deeds of ungodliness. So Jude is pretty much directly quoting 1 Enoch, proving that early Christians saw this prophecy as authoritative. It's one of the reasons the Eastern Orthodox churches never removed it from canon. In Revelation 19, verses 11 through 16, a similar verse. It says, Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. The armies of heaven, arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. So in all three passages, here's what we see. The Lord returning with a multitude of the holy ones, divine judgment upon the ungodly, and the establishment of righteousness over the earth. So that just further confirms that the vision of Jesus' second coming in Revelation is directly aligned with Enoch's prophecy. And then we have the Son of Man in both Enoch and Revelation serving as the appointed judge over the wicked, the fallen watchers, and rebellious humanity. In 1 Enoch 69, verses 27 through 29, it says, And he sat on the throne of his glory, and the sum of judgment was given unto the Son of Man. See, that's a title. The Son of Man, not one like a Son of Man, but the Son of Man. And he caused the sinners to pass away and be destroyed from the face of the earth. In Revelation 20, 11 through 15, it says, Then I saw a great white throne and him who was seated on it, and the dead were judged by what was written in the books, according to what they had done. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. So here, the same figure, the Son of Man, not one like a Son of Man, but a title. The Son of Man is given the authority to judge all mankind. Revelation 19:15. From his mouth comes a sharp sword with which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. And that reflects 1 Enoch 62, 5 through 7, where the Son of Man executes judgment with a righteous sword and establishes divine authority over all nations. So, these texts depict, number one, the Son of Man seated on a throne of judgment, and two, the destruction of sinners from the earth, and three, the establishment of divine rule. Really, the striking similarity between these passages confirms that Revelation's visions of Christ as the final judge is deeply influenced by Enoch. Because you're not going to find things like that really referenced anywhere else in the Old Testament. You're just not. Not that specific anyway, and that closely related. And then you've got Enoch's vision, his apocalyptic imagery of the book of Revelation, from the binding of Satan to the lake of fire and eternal judgment. It all closely follows themes that are introduced in Enoch. For example, Revelation 21 through 3, it describes Satan being bound in the abyss for 1,000 years. That aligns with 1 Enoch 10, 4 through 6, where the angel Raphael binds Azazel in darkness until the day of judgment. Revelation 21:1 describes the creation of a new heaven and new earth. That mirrors 1 Enoch 45, verses 4 and 5, which speaks of God renewing the world for the righteous after the destruction of sin. Revelation 21, verses 3 and 4 say, Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more. That directly corresponds with 1 Enoch 92:17, which states that God's presence will dwell with the righteous in the new creation, and there will be no more suffering. So again, we see, first of all, that the final judgment in Revelation aligns with Enoch's prophetic vision. 2, the punishment of fallen angels follows Enoch's model. 3, the renewal of the world and dwelling of God among the righteous is found in both texts, Revelation and Enoch. So, what can you conclude from all that? Well, the Son of Man in Revelation and Enoch share identical roles as the judge and ruler over all nations. And then Jude, Revelation, and Enoch all depict Christ's return with 10,000 saints. Then we have the final judgment scenes in Revelation, very closely mirroring the descriptions in Enoch. And then you've got the New Testament authors who seem to have clearly drawn from Enoch and their descriptions of the Messiah's return and end-time events. So this alignment just further solidifies Enoch's impact on early Christian eschatology and proves that Jesus' messianic role in Revelation was understood in the same way as Enoch's Son of Man. And so one of the bigger questions that we're going to go into now in section 5 is, so what will happen in the end times according to Enoch and Revelation? You know, that would be one of the first things I would want to know. And maybe I should have made that section 1, but it's really more fitting to put it here after establishing what we logically saw developing to this in the first 4 sections, seeing how much the New Testament aligns with Enoch and his observations and his writings. So the Book of Enoch and Revelation both describe the final judgment, the resurrection of the righteous, the destruction of the wicked, the imprisonment of fallen beings, and the cosmic battle leading to the Messiah's ultimate victory. And these prophetic visions align closely, reinforcing that Enoch's influence on New Testament eschatology is undeniable. I don't know how you could. So let's look at this. Enoch's prophecy of the final judgment. First Enoch 91 through 93 and 99 through 104 chapters. It describes the 7 epochs of history culminating in the final judgment of the wicked and the establishment of God's kingdom.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
First Enoch, chapter 99, verses 10 and 11 states, "Woe to you sinners, when you afflict the righteous on the day of severe tribulation, and burn them with fire, you shall be repaid according to your works." That closely parallels Revelation 20, verses 12 through 15, where the dead are judged according to their works, and the wicked are cast into the lake of fire because of what you did to the good people of earth and how you treated them. First Enoch 104, verse 7 declares, "The book shall be opened in heaven, and all shall see what is written therein." That corresponds with Revelation 20:12, the great white throne judgment, which describes the opening of books of judgment before that throne. That is the second death for those who rejected a relationship with God and wanted to live according to their own determining of good and evil, just like the original sin of the garden, where you were deciding for yourself, like a god, what is good and evil by your own opinion, rather than the perfect, loving, just God of creation. Now, both these texts emphasize the recording of deeds and their consequences, the ultimate destruction of the ungodly, and the vindication of the righteous. And then we have the resurrection of the righteous and the destruction of the wicked. First Enoch 51, verses 1 and 2 say that in those days the earth shall give back that which has been entrusted to it, and Sheol shall give back that which it has received. And that is referring to the dead and their spirits. That mirrors Revelation 20:13, where the sea, death, and Hades give up their dead for judgment. 1 Enoch 92, verses 3 and 4 state that the righteous shall arise from their sleep and walk in the light of eternal life. Now, this right here is almost identical to Daniel 12:2 and Revelation 21, verses 3 and 4, which state that the righteous will inherit eternal life. And then in 1 Enoch 62:14, we have, the sinners shall perish before the face of the Lord of spirits, and from thenceforth they shall be in eternal torment. Now that perfectly aligns with Revelation 14:10 and 11, where the wicked are tormented forever in fire and brimstone. So here we have both Enoch and Revelation affirming that, one, the dead will rise for judgment, the righteousness will inherit eternal life, and the wicked will suffer eternal destruction according to their deeds. And then we have the timing of the Messiah's return. In 1 Enoch 48, 2 through 7, it describes that the Messiah is existing before creation, but being revealed in the last days. In Revelation 1:8 and 22:13, it describes Jesus as the Alpha and Omega, the one who was, is, and is to come. In 1 Enoch 62:5, it says that the Son of Man shall appear before the eyes of the world, and all the kings shall fall down and worship him. It's almost identical to Revelation 19, 11 through 16. We're all familiar with it, where Jesus returns as King of Kings, and every knee will bow and every tongue confess that Jesus is God, to the glory of the Father, and the nations will bow down before him. So, as far as the timing of these things, let's look at some modern events that kind of fit this timeline to give us an idea. Because I know we did a comparison-contrast, or a comparison, not necessarily a contrast, but these verses that are similar in the New Testament and even the Old in Enoch. But let's practically apply this to the reality of the world we're living in, right? So, in 1948, we have the rebirth of Israel. You've got the nation of Israel being reestablished, and it is a major prophetic milestone that aligns with end-time prophecies. Like in Isaiah 66:8 states, "Can a country be born in a day, or a nation be brought forth in a moment?" This miraculous event aligns with the restoration prophecies found in Ezekiel 37 and suggests that we are living in the final prophetic era mentioned in Matthew 24. The Third Temple movement. Several Jewish organizations are preparing for the rebuilding of the Third Temple, which aligns with Daniel 9:27 and 2 Thessalonians 2:4, where the Antichrist, or false Messiah or replacement Messiah, is said to defile the holy place before the Messiah's return, the real Messiah, the return of the King. The preparations of this for this temple are significant because they mark another step toward the fulfillment of the end-time prophecies. And anybody paying attention to this knows that they now have the required red heifers to be able to begin that. If you're not aware of it, then just be aware that part of a requirement before you could build a third temple and utilize the instruments involved is they have to be purified, as mentioned in the Old Testament, with the ashes of a perfect red heifer. And there's very, very stringent requirements for this. And I believe they started with 5 Red Bulls taken from Texas, and they are now down to 3, but those 3 have come of the age and are still spotless and still fit the requirements. So they're there and they can be done at any time, which, I'm only mentioning it because it tells you the time you're living in and you should be aware of it. Then we have global governance and the rise of a one world system. Revelation 13 speaks of a global government and economy under the beast system. The increasing push for a centralized world system, digital currencies, and AI-driven governance all align with biblical prophecy and Enoch's warnings of corrupt rulers dominating in the last days. You'll find that in 1 Enoch 48, verses 8 through 10. And 1 Enoch 48, 2 through 7 describes the Messiah existing before creation, being revealed in those last days. So I find that interesting. Every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, we release a much shorter podcast dealing with the 3 top stories of the week. And I always try to relate it back to the seed war, and because it's of eternal importance. And yes, I am dealing with the news events of today, but I also go into why it's important, what the behind the scenes of it is. And much of it has to do with things like this. It's all pushing towards what is described in end time events in Matthew 24, the time of Jacob's trouble mentioned in the Old Testament, and the book of Revelation. Some sort of global governance under a system where everybody will be monitored and you won't be able to buy, sell, or trade anything without their approval. I mean, we've come close to that already with, the passports we almost all had to have because of a certain viral outbreak. If you recall, they were trying to push passports where you couldn't even go into buildings without your little thing showing that you'd been tested or received the specific injection. So a few additional modern events that fit this timeline. We have the rise of artificial intelligence, global digital ID systems. We know that Revelation 13 speaks of a system where buying and selling is restricted to those who take a mark. We have organizations like the World Economic Forum that have pretty much openly advocated for digital IDs, biometric surveillance, and central bank digital currencies, which would enable absolute economic control, and by doing so, control you. We have the increased occult symbolism in politics and entertainment. 1 Enoch 8 describes how the Watchers taught mankind sorcery and hidden knowledge. Today we see a rise in occultic imagery, rituals, and just flagrant open satanic influence in culture, government, and the media, aligning with the deception of the last days. Some people might poo-poo that idea and say it's ridiculous, but that's because you're not paying attention and you've not woken up to it. You have no idea what's going on around you. In order for you to make that claim, you really just truly aren't paying attention. And you've probably been brainwashed by the kind of sorcery and hidden knowledge that the Watchers present to certain people in our culture. An example of this would be some of the mass population control things that we gleaned in Operation Paperclip from the scientists we brought over from Nazi Germany after World War II. If you don't think they didn't glean information from the rebellious Sons of God and Watchers, because that's almost all they were doing behind the scenes in Nazi Germany, was searching out occult stuff to learn how to do all manner of things for power and influence from these beings. And one of the things that they learn is how to manipulate the mind of human beings through things like the television. The patent for that knowingly sends you into an alpha state within 15 minutes of watching most TV programming. You go into an alpha state, which makes you highly susceptible to suggestion. And that is where you wind up having your mind manipulated, and you wind up being propagandized in various ways that you aren't even aware of. But it comes out when you strongly resist the idea of somebody trying to tell you these things. And you're like, no, that's just a big crock. Well, it's because you're not paying attention. Stop watching TV and shows for a while and learn about these things, and you'll eventually see their symbolism everywhere. Certain numbers mentioned, certain phrases mentioned, certain hand gestures, certain concepts. They're all presented right in your face, and you don't even know it because you think it's entertainment, and it's more than just entertainment. And it does influence you whether you realize it or not. And then we have the growing push for a one-world religion. Revelation 17 and 18 speak of a great religious deception, and Pope Francis interfaith initiatives, along with movements like Chrislam, the blending of Christianity and Islam, suggest a growing push towards a unified global religion, which could play a role in the deception before the return of Christ. I personally think it will be something that you're not expecting, and it will be very similar to the world before the flood. I don't think it's going to be Chrislam.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
I think we're in for a shock and a surprise as to what that one world global religion and system of governance will be. And it'll be very much like the Golden Age before the flood. In fact, that's a term we keep hearing here lately, isn't it? We're on the dawn of a golden age. In Revelation 1:8 and 22:13, it describes Jesus as the Alpha Omega, the one who was and is to come. And again, Enoch 62:5, the Son of Man is going to appear before all the eyes of the world. The important thing to take out of that is, one, the Messiah's pre-existence before creation. That term, Son of Man, that title, refers to that being. His revelation is at the end of the age. Everybody will know. It won't be, you mean Jesus wasn't just a good teacher? No, he's the Son of Man. He is God in the flesh, the Word made flesh, the eternal God. All things were created by him, through him, and for him. And then we have the submission of the nations before his rule. So, let's move on to where we have the imprisonment of fallen beings and war in the heavens. Chapter 10 of Enoch, verses 12 through 14, describes fallen angels being bound and cast into darkness until the final judgment, as we mentioned before. We also, if you recall, 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4 and Jude 6 both echo this, stating angels who sinned are bound and chained until judgment. And then Revelation 12 describes a final war in heaven, possibly, where Satan and his angels are cast down. And that aligns with 1 Enoch 54, which describes the final defeat of rebellious beings before judgment. Now, I'm of the opinion, and I can't prove it, and we all have to conjecture onto this to some degree, that we know that a third of the angels followed Hillel or Lucifer in his rebellion. I don't know if that third all did it at once, or if it's an ongoing thing that culminates in a total of the third. I'm not 100% sure. I'm open to either idea. Some part of me thinks that it's a rebellion that happened before man was ever created. In some ways, I agree with Tim Alberino that there was some sort of rebellion that took place prior to all of this, before a new earth was reformed or remade or restored, so to speak, because of a rebellion. And we were put here as a final chapter in that book to close that out. So let's look at some of the connections between Enoch's Son of Man prophecy and the second coming, because in 1 Enoch 69:27-29, it states that, "And he sat on the throne of his glory, and the sum of judgment was given unto the Son of Man." Again, a title, not a description. "And he caused the sinners to pass away and be destroyed." So, very similar to the Great White Throne Judgment. 1 Enoch 46:3-4 describe the Son of Man as one who reveals the hidden things of God and executes justice. Again, aligning with Revelation 19:11, where Jesus is called faithful and true, judging in righteousness. I see this as kind of unfolding today in a number of different ways. For example, we see an increase in lawlessness and apostasy mentioned in Matthew 24:12, where it warns that because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. Enoch speaks of the last generation being filled with sin and rebellion. It's a theme now evident in today's moral decline, deception, and widespread apostasy, and is paralleled in 1 Enoch chapter 99, verses 6-10. And then we have the rise of advanced technology and AI. Enoch warns of the watchers corrupting humanity with forbidden knowledge in 1 Enoch chapter 8, 1-3. And we have modern advancements in AI, genetic modification, and transhumanism, and it all reflects this deception, aligning with another warning from Jesus in Matthew 24, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. And then we have the return of Nephilim-like influence. 1 Enoch 15:8-12 explains how the spirits of the Nephilim, or giants, remain on the earth as demonic entities influencing mankind. And many researchers suggest that modern alien abduction stories mirror ancient Nephilim encounters. We also have global surveillance and control. Revelation 13 describes the mark of the beast system, where no one can buy or sell without allegiance to the beast. And people will willingly give it. We're pretty much witnessing unprecedented surveillance systems, digital currencies, global tracking technology aligning with the prophetic control mechanisms described both in Enoch and Revelation. Enoch 69:27-29 states that he sat on the throne of his glory, and the sum of judgment was given unto the Son of Man, and he caused the sinners to pass away and be destroyed. And again, paralleling the white throne judgment, judging these people for doing such things. And I just try to emphasize that, because that is what the Son of Man, as his title, will be doing as a result of these things being done. These global surveillance, control, forcing people into a system, or providing a system where they pretty much worship a replacement version of the real king, and this replacement receives worship that is not due him, and people willingly give it. We know that we've had a rise in genetic manipulation and transhumanism, because you can see it everywhere with things like CRISPR technology. And Enoch, 1 Enoch 15 warns that the Watchers corrupted human genetics before the flood. With the advances that we see in CRISPR technology or gene editing, artificial intelligence, and neural implants, these are all driving humanity towards hybridization and transhumanist goals, which really eerily mirror pre-flood corruption. Maybe at some point we won't even be fully human anymore. And there's some suggest we'll just have a hive mind, similar to the pre-flood world, where our thoughts are continually evil all the time, and we engage in evil activities, rebelling. We've also seen increased UFO and alien phenomenon. Like I said before, we know that the spirits of the deceased Nephilim, which roam Earth as demons and demonic forces, many researchers and, again, theologians suggest that this modern UFO or UAP phenomenon might be nothing more than a deception orchestrated by fallen entities, aligning with the great deception that's described in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 9 through 11. And then we have heightened persecution of Christians. In Matthew 24, it warns of a time where believers will be hated and persecuted. Enoch 100 verse 7 predicts that the righteous will suffer greatly, but ultimately be vindicated. And today, persecution against Christians is on the rise globally. Maybe not in this country, but everywhere else, especially in nations advancing anti-Christian legislation and promoting secular ideologies that are hostile to biblical faith. So, all these texts affirm that the Son of Man is going to be the executor of judgment, that the Messiah will be seated in glory to rule, and the final destruction of sin and the establishment of God's kingdom is coming. The Book of Enoch and Revelation present pretty much nearly identical eschatological themes. The resurrection, final judgment, destruction of the wicked, and the eternal rule of the Messiah, they're all clearly described in both texts. Jesus, John, Peter, and Jude, they were all aware and influenced by Enoch's apocalyptic vision. The second coming of Christ pretty much fulfills the Son of Man prophecies in Enoch. And then in section 6, we're almost finished here, folks. I know this is running long. Section 6, we have some technology, the Watchers, and prophecies. Enoch and Genesis 6 describe a time when fallen angels, known as the Watchers, many of you familiar with the story, they descended to earth and corrupted mankind. And these beings brought forbidden knowledge that humans were not ready for and shouldn't have possessed in our current state. And advancements that led to destruction, genetic corruption, and moral decay. And as we examine the parallels between pre-flood technology and modern advancements, the question arises, is humanity repeating the same mistakes? Because it seems like they are. Or we are.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
Where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And could AI, transhumanism, and genetic engineering be the resurgence of the Watchers' forbidden knowledge? It would seem so. For example, Enoch's account of fallen angels teaching forbidden knowledge in the past. 1 Enoch 8, first few verses record the Watchers teaching mankind metallurgy and weapons. Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. Why? What other purpose is served other than killing each other? And then cosmetics and seduction. Amazarach taught all the enchantments and root cuttings and the making of makeup and women adorning themselves. Barakiel taught astrology, Kokabel taught the constellations, and Tamiel taught the signs of the sun and the moon. And these teachings led to corruption, warfare, genetic defilement, and it's what prompted God's judgment through the flood. I know in Sunday school you were just taught that it was the sins of men, but it wasn't. It was a combination of all of these things. And the fact that the earth had been genetically manipulated to the point that there was really only one family that were both morally and genetically pure on this planet. And what animals could be found that had not been genetically manipulated, those species were put on the ark and saved. And anything else that was on the surface of the earth that had the breath of life in it was destroyed. And so what do we have as modern day parallels? Well, we have the rapid development of certain high-level technology, genetic engineering, and CRISPR, modifying human DNA. We have AI and robotics, creating artificial life and intelligence. We have quantum computing and energy weapons, potentially replicating lost pre-flood technology. The opening of portals, calling down fire from the heavens. So just as the waters led humanity into corruption before the flood, today's technology raises concerns about repeating history, does it not? And all of this, all of the origins of secret knowledge, Genesis 6:4, it describes the Nephilim, or hybrids that are born from the union of the Watchers and human women. Their influence spread violence, corruption, and occult knowledge. Enoch 9:6 states that they have discovered hidden things which they were doing among the children of men. And that aligns with the human knowledge of ancient alchemy, astrology, and early forms of sorcery. In today's world, we have modern equivalents where we have elite secret societies like Freemasons, Rosicrucians. They all trace their esoteric knowledge to pre-flood civilizations. You have the occult revival in modern science, CERN, quantum mysticism, quantum entanglement, and they all mimic the Watcher's influence. You go back and look at artwork like the yin and the yang, and you compare that to observable in the lab observations of quantum entanglement, and it's like those ancient people under the influence of the Watchers saw quantum entanglement and painted it or put it in art form. We have transhumanist elites openly embracing occult symbolism, suggesting their work may be tied to the same deception. It all comes from the same source, which is what the main theme of our podcast and our YouTube channel and even our band is about, exposing these rebellious sons of God and how they're influencing culture from the past to present. So, how did this knowledge lead to destruction? Well, 1 Enoch 7:5, they devoured mankind and taught them evil things. The Watchers' technology corrupted the earth. It led to tyranny and resulted in the flood. The Book of Jubilees, non-canonical but still useful to read, confirms that their influence destroyed creation itself. And so modern parallels to that would be that the modern world is on the brink of self-destruction through AI-driven warfare, where we have autonomous weapons and robotic soldiers, biological experimentation, where we have synthetic biology and AI-human integration, the upcoming mRNA vaccines.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary.
through this Star Wars based program, space whatever, where they basically want to combine our DNA with future injections, vaccines, and I don't know. I personally want nothing to do with it. I'm not afraid of death. If I die of some natural cause, I die of some natural cause. I'm not going to put something strange in my body that I don't know. Any more than I would take a drink offered to me by a stranger. I don't know what they just gave me. Why would I take an injection from somebody I don't know? Because they're wearing a lab coat and have a doctorate thing? I don't know. I think we're too trusting, and we need to ask more questions before just letting things like that happen to us, because none of these people have proven that they're worthy of our trust, have they? I mean, come on, if the last 5 years haven't woken you up to that, then you need red pilling. Then we have global surveillance and control. We pretty much have a digital prison system being built, resembling that beast system in Revelation 13. So, just as Enoch records humanity's near collapse before the flood, you can see right now that similar events are unfolding today, just like Jesus warned in Matthew. When he returns, it'll be as the days of Noah were. We also are aware of the fact that Daniel 12:4 predicts that knowledge will increase in the last days. And I think that probably refers to the revival of watcher-given knowledge. Perhaps there's some sort of exchange going on for, in the antediluvian world, they wanted wives and human women in exchange for the knowledge for building weapons and other knowledges. And maybe we're doing the same thing today, exchanging humans in trafficking, both children, women, whatever, for their knowledge. 1 Enoch 16:3 says that you were spiritual, holy, living an eternal life, but you defiled yourselves with the blood of women and begot children through the blood of flesh. This suggests that spiritual beings manipulated DNA, which sounds eerily similar to modern genetic tampering. We're doing the same things they did. And it may be that because there's a restraint of lawlessness, they can't do it necessarily themselves. But they can persuade humans to do it for them or give permission for them to get involved in it again. Because I think that's how the as above, so below governing laws of heaven and earth work. Just as God has to reveal through his prophets, or doesn't have to, but told us he would. And so I think the kingdom of heaven, the way it works is legally. If God has that requirement that he's going to warn us through the prophets before judgment, then the rebellious sons of God also have to warn before they act. And they do so through modern culture, movies, songs, news, because they're required to. And then it's on you if you ignored it as just mere entertainment, because that's what you've been brainwashed to believe. So, modern resurgence of watcher knowledge is human DNA manipulation. Again, CRISPR technology allows for genetic changes, paralleling pre-flood Nephilim experimentation. You've got Elon Musk's Neuralink and transhumanism movement pushing AI integration into the human brain. You have artificial intelligence and digital consciousness. You got Revelation 13 that talks about an image that can speak and control commerce. You have AI advancements suggesting the possibility of a digital consciousness ruling over mankind. Perhaps when you're given that mark, somehow you are connected to a hive mind and no longer fully in control of your thoughts. Now, obviously, they're not going to present it to you as enslavement, but that's what it'll be. They always come putting on that initial mask of we're just good and looking out for your best interest and trying to help you to evolve into the perfect human. But the reality is it's a knife in the back eventually. And then we have particle accelerators and ancient energy weapons. You got the Tower of Babel incident that may involve pre-flood energy technology. And you have CERN's collider, resembling the ancient myth of gates being open to spiritual realms. So, sure seems to me like we're repeating pre-flood mistakes. You got humanity obsessed with evolving beyond our current state, and at that point, I can totally see people going, well, I don't want my kid to be at a disadvantage. He's going to get to go to college because he has the Neuralink and knows everything. See? You don't want your kid to be disadvantaged and be one of the slaves that works in the factories where everybody else who has the AI and Neuralink, they're in charge of everything. Well, that's what I want for my kid, so I'm going to get the Neuralink implant. Then you have the merging of AI, biotech, and physics may echo the same corrupting knowledge that led to God's judgment in Noah's day. He's going to have to put a stop to it at some point, or none of us will even be human anymore. You won't even be human. And maybe we'll get to a point where technology will allow us to even upload our spirit or consciousness into the cloud and then re-download yourself into something else and thus be unable to die. And we know Revelation speaks of a time where something happens negative in regards to all that, and people will seek death but be unable to find it. And maybe that's why. So, did Enoch foresee modern transhumanism and AI? I think he kind of did. You got Enoch recording Nephilim spirits remaining on Earth and continuing to deceive humanity. We have Revelation describing Apollyon, the destroyer, releasing beings that torment mankind. That could refer to demonic forces even inhabiting AI or advanced robotics. It's possible. At some point, we could have AI replacing human decision-making, and that aligns with Revelation's warning of an all-controlling beast system. We have transhumanists openly discussing the creation of synthetic bodies and digital consciousness. And that eerily echoes 1 Enoch 16, where it says, the spirits of the giants shall afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, and work destruction on the earth. So there's a good possibility we have these spirits influencing technology advancement today. The end game of this is that many scientists and elites aim to create post-human existence. They think it's a good thing. But I wonder, could the final deception be the offer of godhood through technology, as promised by the serpent in the garden in Genesis 3? But again, you've got a warning in Revelation 13 of a final world system where you are enslaved through this technology. And you can't break away from it. So, forbidden knowledge of the Watchers is described in Enoch and Genesis 6 as clear parallels with today's technology advancements. You got AI, transhumanism, and genetic manipulation that appear to be a revival of pre-flood corruption. You've got ancient warnings in Enoch and biblical prophecy suggesting this knowledge leads to destruction, control, and rebellion against God. There's a war described in the last days where you will literally join with the false Messiah to fight against the one true God of the universe. You'll fight against him. Maybe you'll be persuaded that he is simply some other invading alien species. I don't know what lie they're going to tell you, but you'll fight against him. Some of you listening to this podcast right now, will join up with that and fight against the return of the real king. If Enoch foresaw modern technology, then we must heed the warnings of history to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. Don't fall for it, folks. So let's wrap this up. Section 7. because we're going really long here. The importance of Enoch and understanding Jesus in the end times. The Book of Enoch is one of the most controversial and yet undeniably influential texts of the ancient Jewish world. If Second Temple Jews, including Jesus' disciples in the early church, saw Enoch as prophetic and important, then the question is, should we? Speaking for myself, I do. So in this final section, we're going to explore why Enoch is still relevant today, why it was removed from most canons, and how it helps us understand Jesus' warning about the end times. So, again, should we consider it important? One of the strongest arguments for taking the Book of Enoch seriously is its influence on Jesus and the New Testament writers, like we mentioned previously. You know, we have a direct quote in Jude 14:15. And so this clearly proves that early Christians accepted Enoch as prophecy, at least portions of it, right? We have the Dead Sea Scrolls that included fragments of Enoch, proving it was widely read and respected in Jesus' time. And again, I'm almost certain it was the second most copied scroll. The early church fathers, as I mentioned, defended Enoch as scripture, stating that the Jews rejected it because it pointed too clearly to the Messiah. And you can read about that on The Apparel of Women, Book 1, Chapter 3. But even more significantly, Jesus himself repeatedly used the title Son of Man, which is directly tied to the Book of Enoch. And if you don't take away anything else from this podcast, just know that there's no other place Jesus could have got that as a title. Not a description, but a title. Because nothing in the Old Testament refers to the Son of Man as a title. Instead, it is always used as a descriptive term for some person who really is human or something that looks like a human. But it's never mentioned like Enoch does as a title. Right? If you want to look that up in 1 Enoch, it's chapter 46, the first 4 verses, and all throughout Enoch 48, but mostly through verses 2 through 7. And that's where the Son of Man is described as a divine figure, pre-existent with God, who will sit on a throne of glory and judge the world. And that matches exactly with Jesus' words in Matthew 25, where he describes himself as the Son of Man as a title, returning in glory to judge the nations. Right? When Jesus stands before the high priest and he declares, "You will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven," he is making a direct reference to Enoch's description of the Son of Man as the ultimate judge. It is a title like Jesus the Christ, Jesus the Messiah, Jesus the Anointed One, Jesus the Son of Man, the Son of Man, not like a Son of Man, but the Son of Man. And then for Revelation 14:14 again describes the Son of Man coming with a sickle to harvest the earth. You know, if Jesus, Jude, Peter, and John were aware of Enoch, which I believe they were, and intentionally referenced it, then shouldn't we take it seriously? The Eastern Orthodox churches kept it in theirs, in their Bible, their canon. The title Son of Man is not a random phrase. It is a loaded term with deep Enochian and messianic significance. So, why did they remove it, right? Why did most canons remove it, but it was preserved in Ethiopia? Well, despite its clear influence on both Second Temple Judaism, they all knew about it. That's why they tried to stone him and kill him. They knew exactly what he was claiming as a title. In early Christianity, the Book of Enoch was systematically removed from Western canons. But why? The Ethiopian Orthodox Church still includes 1 Enoch in its Bible even to this day, and suggesting an unbroken tradition of preservation that Western Christianity lacks for some reason. We know that in 325 AD at the Council of Nicaea, Enoch was excluded from the official canon, likely due to its detailed accounts of fallen angels and the Messiah's divine role.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Which conflicted with later theological debates. And I actually might be mistaken on that date because I'm thinking that it might not have even been until after 400 AD that it was officially removed. Rabbinic Judaism also rejected Enoch after the destruction of the Second Temple. And I believe it's possibly because it was too closely associated with Christian messianic beliefs. There was a number of things that went on then, including the changing of the genealogies to fit the Melchizedek figure with one of the sons of Noah. But beyond these historical events, a theological shift occurred somewhere in the 4th and 5th centuries, which played a major role in Enoch's suppression. We had the rise of anti-supernatural bias and the Sons of Seth theory growing in prominence. Because by 400 AD, many of the church fathers began desupernaturalizing Scripture, moving away from the supernatural worldview of Second Temple Judaism and more towards a allegorical and philosophical approach to biblical interpretation. So you had Augustine in roughly 354 to 430 AD, and others opposed the literal interpretation of Genesis 6, dismissing the idea of fallen angels interbreeding with human women. And they introduced the Sons of Seth theory, claiming that the sons of God in Genesis 6 were merely the righteous descendants of Seth marrying the wicked daughters of Cain, a theory that in previous videos we've shown have zero scriptural backing and completely contradicts ancient Jewish and early Christian writings. It all but ignores it. And not just Jewish and Christian, but virtually every single culture on the planet that writes about contemporary things. I find it interesting that even answers in Genesis that I think in most situations, including the flood, will refer to writings and cultures that all write about the flood. But when it comes to the Sons of Seth theory and the sons of God or the Watchers breeding with human women, even though every single culture that has a flood story also just happens to have a story of beings from the heavens mating with human women and creating strange things walking the earth. They all talk about it in some way, shape, or form, but Answers in Genesis dismisses that? I don't get it. That is very odd to me. And I think it's probably because most seminaries pound into their heads the Sons of Seth theory. And I just don't think it holds any water whatsoever. It's the most ridiculous explanation I've ever heard. And most of them won't discuss it with you because I think it's an indefensible position and they just would rather it go away and they ignore it. And if you bring it up, they will just brush you off and come up with a dismissive argument. If you look at arguments for both ideas, you'll see the Sons of Seth theory it just falls apart under close scrutiny. Anyway, this particular shift in interpretation allowed church leaders to downplay the role of fallen angels, Nephilim, and supernatural warfare, making it easier to control theological narratives and fit with emerging Greek-influenced philosophical theology. The Sons of Seth theory conveniently removed the idea of angelic rebellion and direct interference in human affairs, even though Enoch, Jude, and Peter, and early church fathers all confirm it. Not to mention what I just mentioned. Every ancient culture writes about creatures from the stars or coming from under the earth after the flood or even before that. Giants, strange creatures, all the result of this manipulation by the Watchers genetically with humans and animals and plant life. So this anti-supernatural bias played a huge role in why Enoch was not only removed, but also actively suppressed. By rejecting Enoch, church leaders were able to reframe biblical history in a way that was more rationalistic and allegorical, which ultimately led to the loss of key insights into Jesus' eschatological warnings. Much of the Bible doesn't make sense without all of that. Like the wiping out of certain cultures in the land of Canaan. It seems like genocide. But when you realize virtually all those races, the Amalekites, the Canaanites, the Philistines, if you pay attention, you'll see that Joshua and Caleb and the other 10 spies, they all saw that they were not human. They were giants. They reported it. And only Joshua and Caleb had the testicular fortitude to basically trust God, knowing that they could still defeat them even though they were much taller. So,
how to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa Welcome Bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
it wasn't just Goliath and his brothers or Og, King Og. Lots of strange things existed before and after the flood. And I think it's a shame that it's not properly taught in churches anymore. We completely despiritualized the Bible, and it's no wonder that with such despiritualization, we wonder why it seems like lives are not being changed either. It's because we explain everything away with modern science. Everything can be described psychiatrically or whatever. And while I don't think we should blame everything on demons either, I think it is foolish to simply dismiss it all when it's clear that every culture writes about these things. So is Enoch even still relevant today in light of modern prophecy unfolding? We mentioned before that Matthew 24 mentions that as it was in the day of Noah, so too it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. It directly ties in with Genesis 6 and the Book of Enoch, where the Watchers corrupted humanity before the flood. That produced increases in lawlessness and Nephilim-like deception. And we see similar things with, again, transhumanism, AI, genetic manipulation, and occult resurgence, global control system, the beast system. And this phrase, as in the days of Noah, has a direct tie to Enoch. So, if Jesus compares the end times to the days of Noah, then understanding the book of Enoch is crucial because it provides details about what happened in that era that we can see taking place today. Enoch 15 describes the spirits of the Nephilim remaining on earth, influencing mankind. I think that's going to be directly related to what we see, again, about the UFO thing, interdimensional beings, channeling, these ancient things that people are seeing when they are under the influence of root cutting, like ayahuasca trips. Those aren't good angels you're encountering. They may deceive you at first, but if you decide not to listen to them or bring up Jesus, they will immediately become hostile. And even people working in the DOD, who may not even believe in God or the Bible, would tell you that whatever these things are, they refer to, some of them refer to them as interdimensional beings, and they are not our friend, and they're very deceptive. So, just to wrap things up, if Jesus and the apostles and early Christians referenced Enoch, it's wise to study it so you can grasp what they knew also. Because Enoch really does connect the dots between Genesis, Daniel, Revelation, and end-time prophecy. And it will give a fuller picture of spiritual warfare and divine judgment. Dr. Michael Heiser refers to it as the prequel to the whole show. If all you know is the New Testament, Jesus died according to the scriptures and rose again on the third day according to the scriptures. If you're familiar with that reference, but you don't know what scriptures in the Old Testament and whatnot that phrase is referring to, then you've missed 80% of the movie. And if you've missed 80% of the movie and you're just watching some of the closing scenes, you don't really have a full concept of the gospel and the good news and why it was even necessary. And I think it is important to know why it's necessary and why it was done the way it was done. So anyway, let's wrap this up. If this journey through hidden knowledge and forgotten history has stirred anything within you, if the dots are starting to connect and you're seeing the war beneath the surface, then you're pretty much already part of our movement. Pilgrim's Greye isn't just a name, it's a calling. We are all pilgrims. And this is a path for those who seek questions and refuse to be lulled into complacency. We think critically here as we're walking on this earth, But as you know, truth comes at a cost. The more we uncover, the more resistance we face. But if you believe in the mission and exposing deception and reclaiming the lost wisdom of the ancient world, and why it's important, here's some ways that you can help us out. You can amplify our signal and algorithm by liking and subscribing, sharing the video, because every interaction tells the algorithm that this knowledge needs to be heard. So more engagement means more people breaking free from the veil of deception. And instead of just talking and complaining about it, it gives you something positive and constructive you can do. I mean, we're always asking, well, what am I supposed to do about it? Why does it matter? What can I do? Well, engage, like the video, subscribe to the channel, encourage, spread it out, share it with a friend, share it with everybody you know, because that is your part. You may think it's a small thing to do because it only takes a few seconds, but it makes a huge difference. When enough people do their small part, it creates a flood. Each water droplet in a flood counts. And now you can wear the truth. You can check out our Pilgrim's Greye merchandise. I will start in every video of our podcast I make. In the comment section, I will pin a comment that shows how you can support us with links. We're not just a band merchandise, but it's a banner. When you wear our stuff, you're pretty much wearing a banner for those who see through the lies. And when you wear it, you're signaling that you stand for truth in a world drowning in illusion. It helps you to shine a little brighter in a dark world. And it's a way for you to start conversation. When you're wearing our band shirt and somebody asks you about the band and what that means, and are you a Tolkien fan because the name of the album is Elevensies or Pilgrim's Greye, you can explain that it's about more than that. You can fuel the frequency. Podcast merchandise is coming soon. The Chronicles of Truth Seekers need a voice, and we're building a space where, these discussions can go even deeper. And so Pilgrim's Greye Chronicles is also going to have merchandise out there, so keep an eye out for it. It's more than just gear. Like I said, it's a badge of defiance against the silence. And you can fortify our mission. So, if this knowledge has challenged you or awakened you, you can consider hitting thank you on YouTube. And for the cost of a cup of coffee, you will directly be fueling our research, production, and the ability to push back against the flood of controlled narratives. We try to walk with you as pilgrims in this world, and once you see these things, those who see can't unsee it. It's an ancient war that dates back to the world before the flood, and that battle is still raging on, and every truth revealed brings us one step closer to the return of the rightful king. And until that time, we should all stand firm and stay vigilant and keep seeking, because this is the pilgrimage. Whether you know it or not, you are walking under the same stars as a gray pilgrim just like us. And so continue with your walk, and I will play you out with some musical ideas from my studio. Have an awesome work week, folks.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No